Betrayal in the dark. The east yard was fire and fury. Smoke rose in thick, choking plumes, the air alive with gunfire and screams. Through the breach in the wall, the glow of truck headlights cut sharp beams into the chaos. Blackridge wasn't just collapsing, it was bleeding into the world beyond. Detective Laura Jensen shoved Warden Harold King forward, her pistol jammed into his back. Ramirez staggered at her side, his face gray from blood loss. Every step was a battle, every breath a fight against the smoke clawing her lungs. The mob swirled around them, wolves in human skin. Some roared toward the breach, their arms heavy with weapons and sacks of drugs. Others circled Jensen, their eyes fixed on King like predators scenting prey. Then out of the smoke, Reaper emerged. His massive frame towered above the pack, his grin wide and savage. He raised a captured rifle high, and the yard erupted in cheers. "The gates are open," he roared. "Tonight we walk free." The mob surged forward, crashing against the breach like a wave of fire. Trucks rumbled beyond, ready to carry death into the world. Jensen's heart hammered. If Reaper's wolves broke through, nothing could stop the slaughter. She yanked King back toward the shadows, dragging Ramirez with her. They ducked into a side passage, the roar of the riot echoing like thunder. Inside, the corridor was dim, lit only by firelight flickering through shattered windows. The silence was jarring after the chaos outside, too jarring. That's when she heard it. The click of a gun hammer behind her. "Drop it, detective." Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly. Ramirez stood behind her, his pistol aimed squarely at her chest. His face was pale, twisted in anguish, but his hand didn't shake. "Ramirez, what the hell are you doing?" Jensen's voice cracked, caught between fury and disbelief. He swallowed hard. "I don't have a choice." His eyes flicked to King. "You don't get it. He's bigger than this prison. Bigger than both of us. If I help him out, I get a ticket off this sinking ship. If I don't..." He trailed off, his grip tightening on the gun. King chuckled, blood dribbling down his chin. "I told you, detective. Everyone has a price. Some men sell for power, others for survival. And some..." He tilted his head toward Ramirez. "Just to live another day." Jensen's heart clenched. Ramirez, her only ally in this hell, was ready to betray her. "Think about what you're doing," she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "If you hand him over, you're not buying freedom, you're buying silence. They'll kill you as soon as you're not useful." Ramirez's eyes glistened. For a moment, his pistol wavered. "You don't know what it's like, Jensen. I've seen what they do to men who don't play along. Cruz, Dalton, half the guards in this place. You think I want to end up like them? Forgotten, buried under concrete and lies." "You'll end up worse," Jensen shot back. "Because you'll have to live with what you did. You'll have to live knowing you turned on the only chance to end this nightmare." The silence stretched, broken only by the distant roar of the riot. Then King spoke again, his voice smooth and poisonous. "She's right about one thing, officer. You will have to live with it. But at least you'll live. She won't. Do it. End this now." Ramirez's jaw clenched. His finger tightened on the trigger. Jensen's pulse thundered. She couldn't raise her weapon, he was faster. She couldn't run, there was nowhere to go. All she had were words. "Ramirez," she said, her voice cracking with raw urgency. "Cruz trusted you. Dalton trusted you. And I trusted you. Are you really going to prove them all wrong? Are you going to let King win again?" The gun wavered. Sweat poured down Ramirez's face. His breath came in ragged gasps. Then, in a single heartbeat, he turned. The shot thundered through the corridor. King jerked back, a fresh bloom of blood spreading across his chest. Jensen's eyes widened. "No." King collapsed against the wall, coughing, blood bubbling from his lips. But even as his body sagged, his eyes glittered with mocking amusement. "You think this stops it?" he rasped. "The network lives. The wolves live. Blackridge will never die." His body slumped forward, lifeless. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ramirez dropped the pistol, his shoulders heaving. His eyes were hollow, broken. "I couldn't let him talk anymore. I couldn't." Jensen grabbed his arm, fury and grief colliding in her chest. "You idiot. We needed him alive. He was the proof. The link." Ramirez shook his head, tears cutting through the grime on his face. "He was poison. Every word poison. I couldn't take it anymore." Jensen wanted to scream, but the sound was drowned out by the riot's renewed roar. Through the shattered window, she saw Reaper's wolves surging again, their silhouettes climbing through the breach, rifles raised, fire painting their faces. King was dead. The proof was gone. And now the wolves were free. She shoved Ramirez forward, rage and despair driving her steps. Then we ended another way. We burn this place down before they spill into the world. The corridor shook with another explosion. The air grew hotter, smoke choking every breath. And Detective Laura Jensen knew, with a cold certainty that twisted her gut, she wasn't fighting to win anymore. She was fighting to survive. Next, the wolves at the gate. The east yard thundered with chaos. Smoke billowed into the night sky, firelight painting the prison walls orange and red. Trucks still idled just beyond the breach, their headlights cutting through the haze like the eyes of waiting predators. And through the shattered concrete, the wolves poured. Detective Laura Jensen shoved Ramirez forward, her lungs burning with every breath. King's body still lay cooling behind them, his blood soaking the corridor. Proof of the network was gone, but the nightmare lived on. Reaper's wolves were free and nothing stood between them and the outside world except fire and desperation. When they stumbled back into the yard, the scene was worse than before. Inmates were scaling the breach, clawing over rubble, dragging sacks of drugs and stolen rifles onto the waiting trucks. The roar of engines mixed with the howl of men tasting freedom for the first time in years. And at the center of it all stood Reaper. He was a giant silhouetted by flames, shirtless, his tattoos crawling across his chest and arms like ink demons. In one hand he gripped a rifle. In the other, a bloodied machete. His eyes burned as he looked up at the wall, his voice booming across the yard. Tonight we are kings. Tonight, the world remembers our names. The mob roared in reply, their chants shaking the very stones of Blackridge. Jensen's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a prison riot anymore. It was an army. And once they broke past the gates, nothing could stop the slaughter. She ducked behind a scorched barricade, dragging Ramirez with her. He groaned, pale from blood loss, but his eyes were still sharp. "We can't let them through," he gasped. "If they get outside, they'll burn the city," Jensen finished grimly. She scanned the yard, her eyes locking on the last line of defense, the main gatehouse. Its reinforced doors were still intact, though the hinges glowed red from fire. Inside, a handful of guards fired desperately through the slits, trying to stem the tide. They were outnumbered 100 to 1. "That's where we make our stand," she said. They pushed through the yard, dodging bursts of gunfire. Twice, Jensen fired back, dropping inmates who charged with makeshift spears. Each step was agony, but they reached the gatehouse, slamming inside just as another explosion rocked the prison. The guards inside were a wreck, bloodied, exhausted, eyes wide with panic. One turned his rifle on Jensen until he saw the badge around her neck. "Detective," he gasped. "They're everywhere. We can't hold them." "You will," Jensen snapped. "Because if this gate falls, the world falls with it." Ramirez collapsed against the wall, his pistol shaking in his hand. "How long until reinforcements?" The guard laughed bitterly. "Reinforcements? You think anyone's coming? They sealed this place off hours ago. Far as the state's concerned, Blackridge is already gone." The words hit like a hammer. They were on their own. Through the slits in the gatehouse wall, Jensen saw Reaper advancing. He strode through the mob like a general, his rifle raised, his machete gleaming. His wolves parted around him, their chants rising louder, shaking the yard. Reaper raised his arms. "Tear it down." The mob surged against the gate, battering it with pipes, bricks, and stolen tools. The hinges screamed under the assault, the metal bending with every strike. Inside, the guards fired through the slits, dropping men, but for every body that fell, 3 more surged forward. The gate wouldn't last. Jensen's mind raced. Shooting wasn't enough. Fighting wasn't enough. They needed to break the wolves' momentum, to shatter their frenzy before it consumed everything. Her eyes landed on the fuel tank stacked near the trucks outside the breach. Gasoline. Enough to turn the yard into an inferno. She turned to Ramirez. "Cover me." He blinked, pale and shaking. "Laura, what are you?" "Just cover me." She kicked the door open and sprinted into the yard, bullets sparking at her feet. The mob roared, some breaking off to chase her, but she moved like fire, dodging between bodies, her pistol barking with every step. She reached the fuel tanks, her breath ragged, her heart pounding. Behind her, Reaper's voice thundered. "Don't let her." Jensen raised her pistol, aimed at the nearest tank, and fired. The explosion tore through the yard like a god's fist. Fire engulfed the trucks, the breach, and the wolves swarming toward freedom. Bodies flew, screams filled the night, and the shockwave threw Jensen to the ground. Heat seared her face, her ears ringing with the roar. When she staggered up, the yard was hell itself. Flames devoured everything, The trucks, the breach, the men who had been seconds from escape. Smoke blackened the sky, glowing with embers. And through the flames Reaper rose. His body was scorched, his tattoos smeared with blood, but his eyes still burned. He tossed the ruined rifle aside, gripping his machete tighter. "You," he roared, his voice hoarse but thunderous. "You did this." The mob, fewer now but no less savage, turned their rage on Jensen. Their chants grew louder, more frenzied. "Kill her. Kill the badge." Jensen's pistol was empty. Her chest heaved, her vision blurred from the heat. She stumbled backward toward the gatehouse, her mind screaming for a miracle. The gate creaked behind her, seconds from collapse. The wolves surged closer, their faces twisted in fury, Reaper leading the charge with his blade raised high. And Detective Laura Jensen realized the fire she had unleashed hadn't stopped the wolves. It had only enraged them. Next, Firestorm. The yard was burning. Flames clawed at the night sky, thick black smoke curling upward like a signal of apocalypse. The trucks were molten skeletons, their fuel tanks still spitting bursts of fire. The breach in the wall glowed with heat, a jagged wound that seemed to breathe smoke into the world beyond. Detective Laura Jensen staggered backward toward the gatehouse, her pistol empty, her throat raw from smoke. Around her, the wolves surged, howling with fury. Reaper led them, his machete raised high, his scorched body a monstrous silhouette against the fire. "Kill her," he roared. "Rip her apart." The mob charged. From the gatehouse, Ramirez and the surviving guards opened fire. Bullets tore into the rioters, bodies dropping in sprays of blood. But the wolves didn't stop. They climbed over the dead, eyes wild, mouths foaming with rage. For every man that fell, two more pressed forward. Jensen slammed her back against the gatehouse wall, fumbling for a spare magazine. She jammed it into her pistol, the slide clicking home just as the first inmate lunged. She fired, the shot exploding through his chest, blood spraying across the dirt. Another came from the side, she swung and shot again, the muzzle flash blinding in the smoke. Still they came. The fire spread fast, igniting scraps of clothing, collapsing barricades, searing flesh. The screams of burning men mixed with the roar of those who fought on, undeterred by pain. The prison was no longer a cage. It was a furnace and everyone inside was fuel. Jensen crouched behind the barricade, her chest heaving. Ramirez was firing wildly now, his face pale, sweat pouring down his brow. The guards beside him screamed as they reloaded, their rifles overheating, their nerves snapping. "They're breaking us," one shouted, panic in his eyes. "We can't hold." "Yes, we can." Jensen barked back. "We hold or they reach the world." But even as she spoke, the gate behind her groaned under the pounding fists of inmates. The metal hinges screeched, bending with each blow. The gatehouse was seconds from falling. Reaper strode closer, his machete gleaming orange in the firelight. His grin was a slash across his face. "You can't stop us, Detective. Blackridge burns tonight, and with it, the world that caged us." Jensen raised her pistol, firing again and again, but Reaper kept coming, the bullets grazing his body, cutting his skin, but not slowing him. He was a beast made of blood and fury, unstoppable in the inferno. The mob surged, crashing against the gatehouse like a tidal wave. Hands clawed at the barricades, pipes slammed against the walls, knives scraped against steel. Inside, Jensen grabbed Ramirez's arm, pulling him close. "We're not going to survive this by holding ground." His eyes widened. "Then how?" She glanced at the fuel lines running along the inner yard wall. Old pipes, rusted, dripping with gas. They fed the generators and the kitchens. And now, surrounded by flames, they were a fuse waiting to be lit. "We don't fight the wolves," she said, her voice steady. "We burn the dead." Ramirez's jaw tightened. "You'll kill us too." "Maybe," Jensen admitted. "But if they break through, thousands die out there. We don't get to walk away. Not tonight." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded grimly. "Then let's make it count." They pushed out of the gatehouse together, the heat searing their skin. The mob roared at the sight of them, charging with blades and rifles. Jensen fired, each shot precise, each one carving a path toward the fuel lines. Ramirez limped beside her, his revolver spitting fire, his face twisted in pain but unflinching. Reaper bellowed in rage, charging after them. "You won't stop me, Batch. You'll die screaming." Jensen ignored him. She raised her pistol, aimed at the rusted pipe, and fired. The explosion was deafening. The fuel ignited instantly, a wall of fire racing along the pipes. The flames leapt high, devouring everything in their path: men, barricades, debris. The yard became an inferno, the screams of the wolves rising into a single, terrible howl. Reaper was caught in the blast. Fire wrapped around him, his body engulfed, but still he staggered forward, his machete raised. His skin blistered, his tattoos melting into ash, but his eyes still burned with hate. "Die!" he roared, swinging at Jensen. She dodged, the blade slicing across her arm, searing her with pain. She spun, her last bullet chambered, and fired point-blank into his skull. Reaper's body jerked, his eyes rolling back. The machete clattered to the ground, and the giant collapsed into the flames. Silence fell, broken only by the roar of fire. The mob broke. Those who survived scattered, fleeing into the shadows of the burning prison. The wolves were shattered, their leader gone, their escape destroyed. Jensen dropped to her knees, her pistol slipping from her hand. Smoke filled her lungs, tears stung her eyes, blood ran down her arm. Ramirez limped to her side, his face ashen, his voice hoarse. You did it." She shook her head, staring at the flames consuming Blackridge. "No, we didn't win. We just kept the world safe for now." The prison groaned, its walls collapsing, its towers crumbling into the fire. Blackridge wasn't just burning, it was dying. And as the smoke swallowed the sky, Detective Laura Jensen knew the truth. The wolves had been unleashed. They might have been broken tonight, but somewhere in some other den they would rise again.